Transmitting to you from Old Heart Radio.
Oh my god. Oh yeah. Oh man, you guys don't even know it. That's right, you filthy hot dogs. I am here. It is me. I am your host, Old Heart. This is another episode of Coffee and Contemplation. And Contemplation, yes. We are ripening up our coconut as we speak. If you do not ripen up your coconut, or at least try to as many days out of the week as you can, then you're gonna end up with an unripe coconut. Yes, I am talking gibberish, and yes, I was laughing really hard. I couldn't stop before recording, because, and Lucas, my fellow co-host and creator, will be proud of me because I couldn't remember Imogen Heap, the artist, and I was like, I had this song stuck in my head, her song Hide and Seek, and I didn't know the name of it. So I Googled, ooh, what you say. Like I just typed in, ooh, what you say. Ooh, what you say. Okay, anyway, I'm not talking about Imogen Heap, although, you know, kudos to her. Like, honestly, fantastic artist. It's just sometimes things just don't age well, or they age perfectly. Sometimes things are meant to age into comedy, I think. You know, like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, or basically any action movie from the 80s. As long as you, you know, maybe take out the misogynistic aspects, which basically you're just taking out the entire movie. Anyway, we're not talking about the merits of 80s movies or past works. Today we are talking about, well, Murder Hornets, to be frank. Murder Hornets. I found a Nat Geo article, aka National Geographic article, titled "Murder Hornets Have Arrived in the U.S." Here's what you should know. So I figured, shit, I should know that. So first off, Murder Hornets, as they are called, have popped up in Washington State, my home state. It says right off the bat, this article was published May 4th, you know, Star Wars Day. Two unusual hornets striking with orange and black markings and long stingers were spotted near Blaine, Washington in late 2019. Subsequent investigations revealed that they were Asian Giant Hornets, aka the world's largest wasp. All right, they're seriously, they're almost 2 inches long. They destroy honeybees. Scientists are concerned, apparently, that these hornets are going to obviously spread in Washington and then beyond. There's been, it's like that episode of The Simpsons, classic episode of The Simpsons, where Simpsons go to Australia. Bart makes a prank phone call that subsequently costs him Aussie, fucking like, you know, hundreds of dollars or whatever. And so the Simpsons have to go and apologize. But Bart subsequently brings with him like his favorite toad or some shit like that. And the toad like overpopulates and starts destroying the ecosystem of Australia, like in Australia, or parts of it. And so when the Simpsons are taking off, they look down and they just see like these like hundreds of thousands of toads just eating crops and like destroying like the environment. It's terrible. But that's essentially what these wasps are going to do. I said everything but what they are. These murder hornets are going to do. They're going to spread. They're going to spread past Washington. They're going to eventually spread to the East Coast. They will be in the United States from here on out. The question is, how do we fucking deal with them? They have toxic venom in their large-ass stingers. They're somewhat of a delicacy, I've heard, in Japan, like where some people like actually eat them, but they also kill 30 to 50 people each year. All right? So amplify that by the amount of jackasses in the United States, and a lot more people will be affected by this. Even if it's just in the hundreds, we'll say. That's still more people. So, you know, I like this. An entomologist that works for the Washington State Department of Agriculture named Chris Looney was quoted as saying, these insects are, quote, very formidable. And he himself is very worried. Looney, what a fun last name, offered caution, saying that the murder hornet thing isn't really necessarily, like, it's sensationalized, obviously. I mean, I'm here sensationalizing it, obviously. But it is like, I mean, it is a fucking threat, dude. It is a real thing. And that is scary. So one of the biggest problems is that, like I said, these wasps are carnivores, so they tend to eat the meat of other like things like bees, honeybees, for instance. So when we have this crisis where our bee population is dropping rapidly, and that itself, if bees become extinct, that itself will become an extremely dangerous link to all of a sudden have erased in our food chain and ecosystem. So obviously these wasps are a little bit of an issue. Shit, shout outs to any of you listeners out there. Thank you hot dogs. Thank you so much. Shout outs to my fellow creators, Avi and Lucas. Shout outs to all my friends and family out there. You all are fantastic. Just keep it real. This isn't the first time I've heard of obviously killer flying insects, aka killer bees. Once upon a time, I remember seeing this movie that spooked me a little bit when I was younger. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I always thought bees were fucking shady. I don't know. But there was this there's this movie that came out in 2002 called Killer Bees. It was a TV movie. It starred C. Thomas Howell, also famous for playing Ponyboy in The Outsiders and also doing blackface in a very poorly imagined comedy. C. Thomas Howell starred in this movie about killer bees in 2002. After a truck accident causes their release, a small rural town is faced with a swarm of killer bees. It's booked as like the bee version of Jaws, and not like bee movie version. We're talking about Buzz Bee. I like it. I'm on the IMDb page, and the first user review is a 1-star. Says hilariously awful. Exactly how it should be. According to this hilariously awful disaster movie, a swarm of African killer bees looks like a bunch of chocolates during a Mexican wave. Don't know what that is. At least that's what Sheriff Lyndon Harris finds when he spots a truck full of the insects crashed. He must try to warn people of his town before a honey festival takes place. Of course, the same day that this truck with killer African bees crashes outside of their town, they're about to have a honey festival. It sounds choice. So I used to have this friend. This has nothing to do with killer bees, but I used to have this homie named David Fitzgerald, who I need to try and reach out to him, see where he's at. But David Fitzgerald, he used to like do live tweets. I think that's what he'd like live tweet like really crappy horror movies that he would watch, like Pinocchio's Revenge or shit like that. I really would love to have get him on board to live tweet some movies for our Old Heart Twitter account, which conveniently is at Old Heart in Space. So if you're on Twitter, go follow us. Also, I'm drinking some Cafe Mela coffee this morning. Fantastic. So realistically, these murder hornets they're just gonna spread. I just don't think there's any really. We can maybe slow the spread by taking some sort of precautions, but I don't know. It's just something we're gonna have to deal with, and we're gonna have to try and figure out something that maybe it just affects these hornets. I don't know. Either way, Asian Giant Hornets have stingers that are about 1/4 inch long. They can pierce protective clothing that beekeepers normally use, and they can really actually cause potentially cause death due to kidney damage for people that are 50, or for people who get 50 or fewer stings. 50 or over, I imagine you're probably just dead. Let's see. Yeah, it seems like... shit, dude. It just seems like this is the fucking issue. By contrast, Japanese honeybees, which have evolved with giant hornets. So in contrast to giant hornets, Japanese honeybees have found a way to protect themselves by swarming around the invader and beating their wings until this, quote, bee ball hits 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and the bees cook the wasp to death and suffocate them with carbon dioxide. That is so fucking intense. Okay, so Japanese honeybees have developed this technique to basically swarm the wasps if they try and invade. And they beat their wings for so long and so fast it eventually creates a temperature rise that cooks the the hornets in their own fucking carbon dioxide. That's insane. That is insane. European honeybees, which are the most widespread commercial pollinators, do not have any defense like that against Asian giant hornets. They have been seen to sting the wasp invader or the hornet invaders, but it doesn't really have any effect on these giant-ass wasps. Okay, so that's interesting. I wonder if... Ooh, here's the thing about the African killer. Let's see. Junichi Takashi, a researcher and wasp expert at Kyoto Sangyo University in Japan, said that the label Murder Hornet is appropriate because the species is dangerous like the killer bees, a nickname for the African honeybee. So that's an invasive species that arrived in Texas in 1990. So, to some degree, that C. Thomas Howell, my voice just cracked, Howell movie is like based in reality. It's a true story. Weird. Anyway, so hopefully these bees, the European bees, will eventually figure out this technique that the Japanese honeybees have developed, I assume. But like most things in life, I feel like, they're just behind the curve with the Japanese. So maybe they will pick it up in a few years. I also really want to see a battle between the African honeybee, aka the killer bee, and this murder hornet. This has been another episode of Coffee and Contemplation. That's right, I'm your host, Old Heart. Go find us on Instagram at Old Heart Radio. We have links up there to all the podcasts, but the podcast can be found on Spotify, iTunes, and iHeartRadio. Or, like I said, follow us on Twitter as well, at Old Heart in Space. You people are fucking awesome. As always, send us messages if you want us to do specific topics. We're more than happy to cover any ground you want us to, even if it's disgusting. Go out there and use your brains for good, kids. Why? Because every day is a good day to ripen up that coconut and keep your stick on the ice.